Ah, there you go. Microphone should be on now. Anyway, again, if you want to ask questions, make sure you bracket your questions with either emojis or symbols before and after so I can actually see them. Anyway, let's get to it. The thing everyone's, I suppose, talking about, and people have mentioned it, is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. I personally wasn't surprised. Can you guys still not hear me? Ah, good. Yeah, there's a delay. Just so the video quality can be as good as it can be, I think. That's why it's delayed. Anyway, I wasn't surprised by Jada and Will Smith's bust up or scandal. Whenever I saw Jada and Will Smith in a photo shoot, I felt sorry for Will Smith. He genuinely, like, whatever you might think about his movies, I don't mind them. They're always entertaining for me. I like the guy. He's not one of my favorites, but I like the guy. But whenever I saw them together on the red carpet, it always looked like he won the lottery and she lost the bet. They never looked like they were a good match anyway. So I wasn't surprised. I feel sorry for the guy, and now he took her back, which is a real shame. Yeah, anyway, start asking questions, guys. Feel free to ask anything you want. Are you going to start a channel on a library? Probably. Again, there's only so much I can kind of juggle as well. I don't want to spread myself out everywhere and be mindful of so many different channels to sort of have my pulse on, and if I create content on one, make sure I replicate on all these others and juggle all of them. I don't do this full time. I've got a day job, so this takes up a lot of my time as it is. Okay. Reading list. What everyone likes to ask me what I read. It varies. I've mentioned in a couple of streams, I'm not going to keep repeating the same books. I think it'll get boring for people, but listen to the last couple of streams. Even Spetsnaz and I in the last couple of conversations, we've mentioned our favorite authors and things like that. Do I meditate? I used to, and sometimes I do, but it's more like a relaxation thing, or to lower my heart rate when I can't sleep, when I feel like I can actually hear my heart through my ears. If I'm overly adrenalized, I do more or less simple breathing exercises just to sort of calm my heart rate down. Most of the time, I rarely do it. The most common time I do it is when I can't get to sleep. And so I do sort of a metronome kind of breathing exercise to consciously lower my heart rate, to sort of lower my pulse and things like that. But no, I don't do it. I used to try a lot more before, but it didn't help me as much as people said it would. Let me go back and read some of these. My wife had some deficiencies for a few years. After asking, she mostly corrected them, but I cannot be the way I was before. She will be sad when I leave on my own way. Makes it hard to go. Yeah, it's almost like a breakup or someone cheating on you. No matter what a person does after that, it's kind of like you've shattered something. You know, you can bend and you can bend, but after a while you break, and then there's no kind of unbreaking. What would you say to men put all their energy into a relationship, or worse, lose themselves trying to fix the other person's issues, mental anxiety, and unable to fix them? It's kind of a broad catch-all question, isn't it? It's the cliche of most men who find themselves in the Manosphere, is that they were the nice guy, they gave everything, and now they're empty husks and they're being thrown away like a faulty appliance, or, you know, yesterday's product that's no longer in. It's, you know, you've passed your expiry date. All I would suggest is surround yourself with good, healthy people. Stay away from not just toxic people, online stuff as well. That's toxic. That word's probably going to get flagged in this video. You can't say anything, I swear. It's not, in terms of Will Smith, it's not that, I know he's a millionaire, but it doesn't matter. He's still a human being. If anything, I'd say because it's out in the public, it's even more embarrassing. I mean, whatever you might go through in your life, your family might know, the immediate people around you, that's hard enough. I can't imagine what it's like when the whole world knows, and they're laughing at you, and they're scrutinizing, and they're, you know, doing stupid things like I did, you know, commenting on people I don't know. So I feel sorry for him. Aside from the celebrity status and the money, he sort of, what he's going through structurally is very common. It happens to a lot of men. Can you give some enlightenment on how women fight when they fight amongst themselves? What are their strategies to attack other women? From what I glean, women are really psychologically and verbally proficient, a lot more than guys are. That's why I suggest that men learn how to think better and how to speak better, to sort of be able to sort of not just combat them, but be able to, how can I put it? To be able to defend yourself. Because women are naturally really good, because women use language because that's all they got. They don't have strength. And on aggregate, they don't have the mental proficiency or intellect to sort of match men's in terms of the real world, like, you know, visuospatial, hand-eye coordination, hunting, the mental stoic fortitude, things like that. In the real world, they're defenseless. All they've got is they're much more naturally skilled at verbally getting themselves out of situations, weaving around situations, moving goalposts, being deceptive, saying one thing but meaning another, being passive. You look at the dating game, everything she gets is from a passive stance. She gets everything she wants, but she barely has to say anything. You know, the way women date is they just place themselves in front of you and they get all they want. They don't even have to say anything. So they're very, very strategic in not only how they physically place themselves in the world, but also verbally, what they say and what they refrain from saying, but still getting what they want. Their instincts lead them into getting what they want. Guys, we fumble around. We're very basic in that way. So women are really skilled verbally, and that's how you look at a lot of the soap operas and the movies that are their favorites, is women manipulating each other psychologically. Women know that drama really well. They're a lot better at it naturally than men are. How do I keep finding myself going through the same cycles in my life? You're not alone. Most people do it, I think. It's when it finally gets too much, or the last time is enough and you finally change for good. And, none of us are perfect. I've gone through periods where I kept kicking myself in the same way and making the same mistakes over and over again. You either get tired of it, it gets old, or you get so badly hurt that the psychological scar is so much that you never want to experience it again. It's kind of like getting PTSD. So I think keep pounding at it until it gets through your head and until it gets through your psyche, that you naturally avoid it, or when it comes your way again, it's no longer attractive. The weight of avoiding it compared to the natural attraction to the thing you're addicted to, the balance starts to get tipped. How did you purge your thirst for female companionship and sex? Don't forget, guys, I'm almost 50. Age, I've got the benefit of age. But I naturally had a very rebellious side to me. Not in terms of like kind of what they typically call alpha or whatever, like not being an arsehole. But it's like I was a nice guy to a point. I firmly set boundaries to, I'm relaxed across the board, but no marriage. And it will take a hell of a lot of time and years for me to even consider comfortably and of my own accord considering moving in with a woman. And I mean multiple years. And it only ever happened once to me in my 30s that I moved in with a girlfriend, and it was only for a few months. But then she moved back into her place. But that would tell you, I was the one that suggested she move in of my own accord, because I'd known her for many years. I never thought I would. And she was such a person that I knew I could trust her. And I know a lot of you guys would say, yeah, so did many married guys, but I was never going to get married to her, and she knew that. And I didn't want to have children. So this was like a temporary thing, and in ways to kind of see if I could trust her. And I could. But then she moved back into her place, and the relationship, we parted ways because ultimately in the end she wanted children, and she was honest enough to sort of say, well, you're not going to give it to me. So she was one honourable person I met. But out of most of the relationships I had, they were just a typical female. So it's no surprise that I trusted her enough to voluntarily say that she could move in while she was between homes. Her place was getting sold or something. But yeah, the guys that kind of act a bit too tough, like they're over females, I'm not saying I don't believe them. It's very, very rare, and hats off to them if they are naturally like that and they're completely zen, they're comfortable, they don't need to look at porn. But if you're kind of saying, oh, well, I just need to look at porn and I get the poison out, there's still an addiction. You need to kind of get out frequently to kind of keep nullifying that very natural addiction you have for the opposite sex. Mine was that my brain was really stubborn. I got very argumentative when a woman pushed me beyond my boundaries. On other stuff, I didn't care. But on the essential stuff where I knew that if I submitted to these things like marriage, moving in, sharing bank accounts, having kids, things that I could not come back from, they scared the crap out of me. And if a woman approached that and she was tickling that and trying to shame me and manipulate me there, I really got my back up. So I always had that in me. So I recognize some guys don't. Some guys don't know when the line's being crossed, and then sometimes it's too late. But yeah, know thyself, gentlemen, which is all part of this, which is why I suggest to guys, the red pill is just knowing yourself that much more, seeing the world much more clearly and then being a better you. So I didn't purge it. I really practiced and exercised taming it. It's like a wild it's like a wild dog that you need to tame. I mean, some guys have a wolf in them when it comes to women and sex. I had, I don't know, at best, a German Shepherd, I don't know, Pitbull, a Rottweiler that I did my damnedest to domesticate, and I had the will and enough of the arsehole in me to discipline my dog. But most guys have wolves. And if you got that, I fully respect guys that go monk or just ghost women because they know they can't control that wolf. But if you got that stubbornness like I had in me and still do, I've got a real big self-protective side of me, self-preservation. I noticed it amongst my friends as well. We talk, and when it comes, whether it's philosophically or just really practically and structurally in life where it's tactile, I don't see much of a difference. I could get into a philosophical, really interesting discussion with someone, and I would talk and argue with the same passion I would as a woman trying to push me to move in with her. When it's true, if it matters, and if it's kind of honest, I have the same degree of passion for it. So whatever the conversation is, I find sort of honesty and authenticity and sort of consistent philosophy, all the stuff that engages with life, I really find it rich and exciting, and it matters to me. It's not just theatrical. So I've got that in me. But some guys just like they've got a romantic idea about philosophy and going their way and red pill stuff. But when it comes to practical matters in life, they're not really philosophers. So I don't really think many of them can go their own way. Okay. Are you going to have a new conversation with Ptsd? I did. Not last week, a few days before that. I've just been flat out this past week, so apologies for my tardiness. But I had a really great conversation with Ptsd just over a week ago. I've started to edit it. Hopefully it should be out in the next couple of days. I said that a couple of days ago. But yeah, we've definitely recorded one. Turned out good. Audio was good. And it's just a matter of me getting off my ass and publishing it for you guys. And I'll do my best. So you will get it. It's on its way. Do I have a plan on making a behind the scenes of my videos? If enough people are interested, sometimes I put little bits and pieces, like the little B-roll and things like that in my videos while I'm talking. And I put some info there and behind the scenes, but just kind of little bits and pieces. But if enough people are interested, I might do a video on it. Yeah, let me know. I'm really passionate, but I don't want to bore people on my channel about this just because it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. So I'd be happy to. I love nerd tech talk about cameras and audio and lighting and things like that. Speaking of lighting, I forgot to turn my light on. Some recommendations for evolutionary female psychology, a book or article or post. Evolutionary female psychology. Not sure in terms of evolutionary, in terms of the biological side, but how women think from a female, I would say Esther Villa, which a lot of people know about, and also Camille Paglia, but Esther Villa probably more than Camille Paglia. Thanks, Hi-Ho Silver, for the super chat. I appreciate it, man. Do you believe that rationality can ever overpower biology? Yes, but it can't unconsciously. It's always reattaching itself. Like, you have to consciously exercise your prefrontal, like your lizard brain, your midbrain, and your limbic system. The stuff that's just kind of keeping you aligned. That's the thing that's running you. You have very little control unless you have this will to live by your values and ethics. That's the hard thing. You can't just learn stuff in the Manosphere and go, okay, learnt it, put it in my back pocket, and whenever I need it, it'll be there like a sword or something. It's not like that, because you'll go on autopilot again and you will fall into the same traps. Basically, we're running on the biological autopilot of our lizard brain. Our prefrontal, the conscious side, tries to justify our feelings. So we're running on feelings most of the time. And a lot of the times the things we think is right is us just justifying our feelings and our biases. So the trick is, when you learn stuff that matters to you, like philosophy, red pill content, these light bulb moments that finally answer the problems that were plaguing you, or answer why this person left or why your life stuffed up in the past, really burn it into your brain. Exercise it as though you're going to the gym. Never forget it. Have conversations with other guys. That's a fantastic way to beat it into your psyche, especially in times like these, where I suppose here in Melbourne, we've been quarantined for another 6 weeks. We've gone back to what happened in the first few weeks of the pestilence. So it's the perfect time now. If you're going to have conversations on your own, you don't have to bump into random idiots and screaming kids and like useless conversations. You can have conversations with guys like this. But more importantly, I encourage a lot of you guys, don't just have chats in big groups. If you find one or two guys that you get along with, have one-on-one conversations online if you're going to have them. If you can't find those guys in real life, or if you can't now because of restrictions, but have conversations in real life, on Skype, on Discord, online, in any way you can, but more intimate ones, one-on-one. Talk to each other. Don't just think because you engage in comment sections on YouTube, you're interacting socially, or if you interact on Facebook or any other social media. Excuse me. Interact one-on-one as much as you can, or in small groups. Like, find your tribe, find your friends. And if you can, the best thing you can do is talk to people in real time, either via microphone if you can't catch up in person, but in person every time, hands down. That beats any other method. All right, that was long-winded. I'm looking to travel outside the US for the first time. Where do you recommend visiting Australia to experience your culture? Do you want to experience our culture? Keep up the good work. Hook up with TFM, please, and thank you. You haven't talked to TFM in a while. I like talking to him one-on-one, most of all. We did a chat a couple of years ago that was really good. People really liked that. Yeah. Where I am in Victoria, I would say is probably, if you're part of the Manosphere and you don't like what's going on in the world and like the diversity leftist kind of culture, don't come to Melbourne, Victoria. It's probably the worst out of Australia. The great thing about diversity is you get different restaurants and different cuisines to taste. That's it. In terms of if you're a rational male, that's about the only positive attribute I can see for a guy who likes consistency and for things to make sense. All diversity is for me is just like fragmented everything and the goalposts continually shift because no one's cohesive. But yeah, a lot of good food to choose from. In terms of Australia, the place I'd retire is Tasmania. It's 1 hour from me by plane, and it's isolated. It's where old people go for holidays. It's very untouched, aside from the capital city, Hobart. But Tasmania, it's like New Zealand without the mountains. No matter how personally successful we get, there are still those moments of painful loneliness. Does it get better with age? There's still moments. I have moments where I get flat, and everyone's different. Some people are wired in a way where they get properly depressed, like diagnosably depressed. I would say with myself, I get moments of flatness or sadness, but nothing like depression that I actually see people who actually have it chemically and in that wired way that it's real. I don't have that, and I sympathize with those who do. But yeah, it's kind of, if you don't have it biologically like that, wired, if you have it to a degree like me or worse or in whatever way, is that too shall pass. That's one thing I noticed, that saying, this too shall pass, it goes for the good things and the bad things. You could be having a great day. You can't hang on to that great day either. That good day will pass too. Similarly, the bad day as well, you're not going to be able to hang on to it anyway. If it's not that kind of really, if it's not depression, if it's just a bad day, that'll pass like the good days. So good or bad, this too shall pass, gentlemen. So it's a matter of writing it out. And the proof in it is that if you're feeling crappy today for no reason, but yesterday or a few days ago you felt really good for no reason, just trust that you most likely will feel good again. Write it out. A lot of these things you can't think your way through. You just have to accept them as you're having a crappy day, and then tomorrow should be better. I'm your age, are you? I believe between the age of 20 and 30, I just got lucky not to get married. Back then, if one of my girlfriends would play it well, I would have married. Have you ever considered this luck factor? Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much. I've been very lucky in terms of... look, like I mentioned, I always had my intellectual antenna up because I'm really interested in it. So that same antenna, I never got sucked into sort of dating really awful people, like, people that like strippers or loudmouth bimbos that, they got 5 credit cards overdrawn. The apartments are full of cats. They've been divorced multiple times. Like those train wrecks, I would I wouldn't go near it. My biology would laugh at it as well. It wouldn't go near it. So I was lucky in that respect. Because I always had the barrier of a hard barrier of, I'm not getting married, I'm not having kids with you, I'm not doing the old white picket fence kind of routine, I'm not doing the traditional route. And I made sure to drill that through to her during the dating phase. You know, if she liked me and I liked her, I would hammer that through, saying, this is me, I'm not going to budge. And I would repeat it, you know, in the first few weeks. I would smile, but I'd let her know, this is me, I'm not joking about this. You're not getting kids from me. I'd rather go to jail. You're not getting a cent from me. If you try and trick, I don't know what I said, but I made it apparent to her that she could tell I'm not stupid. She can tell I'm more intelligent than her, and there's not a chance in hell she's going to manipulate me. And I remember always drilling it through to her. I'm open to everything. I'm a very relaxed guy. I'm very easygoing. But when it comes to these things, I'm a different person. You know, I will not let you have anything beyond there. And if you try, I'll ruin your world, so to speak. I'll ruin your dream. You are wasting your time with me, and I'll get quite aggressive if you try and trick me in that way. But before that, I'll be the nicest guy out, and I am. But I think I let them know, you push me past that, I'll become a psycho. So a lot of luck. Yeah, I mean, when I was, especially in my 20s, yeah, I did a few reckless things where I could have gotten any number of women accidentally pregnant. I was very reckless. And that's coming from someone who never drank and smoked or did drugs. I never abused substance. I'm a real control freak, and I've got a great deal of self-preservation. Yet I still had a big rebellious side to me. But I think I benefited from having a big sense of self-preservation and a big controlling side to me, where I never wanted to be drunk or lose sight of, I never wanted to sort of not be in control. Again, know thyself and have hard boundaries. Does neo-reactionary thought resonate with you? Things are getting worse in the West with the degradation of freedom of speech, cancel culture, and so on. Neo-reactionary thought. Not sure exactly what that is. Sorry, I need to look it up. I'm very uninformed when it comes to politics. Realized true female nature a few years ago, now repulsed because of their behavior. Previously, I spent my life on the unicorn hunt. What steps would you take to figure out the direction to go? Again, progressive. I was constantly sharpening myself with every mistake, with every near miss. Every time I dodged a bullet, I didn't laugh. I was grateful I dodged the bullet. And that kind of really seared its way into my brain. And I remember especially in my 30s and early 40s, that the lessons I learned, the bullets I missed, and the, small scars I got, but nothing life-threatening, no limbs taken off, figuratively speaking. I remember the subsequent girls I'd meet, I learnt those lessons, and I remember they'd notice that when they try to push me or try and get me to do things that my exes did, but because I had the experience and I'm never going to fall for those things again, I'm never going to be manipulated and do things that aren't me. They recognized that, and they would always say, oh, well, human, you're still holding on to stuff from the past. I said, no, I'm not. I go, I just know what I don't want anymore. A lot of these experiences we're blind to, and then after they kick us to the ground, we realize I never even recognized that. Now I do. I recognize the signs of that approaching me. In the future, when I see that coming, I have the eyes for it because I've actually experienced it. And that's a great thing. Don't ignore the big things that happened. A lot of guys just, I can't fathom where some of them say, something awful happens, like guys who get married multiple times. Oh, well, that one didn't work out. Let's do it again. Never thinking that the actual structural act of marriage was a big contributing factor to why it doesn't work. And then there might be the particular woman you're with, but if every time you're getting married to different kinds of women and it's always working out wrongly, it may be you, it may be marriage, if the women are always changing. I mean, you could say the women all have something similar in them that contributes to it as well, but how many times are you going to get married and it's never fulfilling? I don't know. Okay, questions. Feminists say that cause of sayings that females can't have friends, and indeed they can't have long-term friends, but the root causes are masculine unconsciousness, patriarchy. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't even know if that was a question. Have you read Sam Harris's Free Will, knowing that free will is just an illusion, our emotions? I've read a third of it. I haven't finished it, but I'm told it's a interesting and good book. I want to read it. It's on my shelf. Another one with a bookmark in it that I haven't finished yet. What do you think men in their 30s should focus on the most? Themselves. Their hormones are starting to drop, and their focus is going to the world and less towards women. That's a great opportunity if you have the antenna for it. Unfortunately, most guys don't. But the more you can at least expose yourself to the realities of the world, whether it's red pill ideas, whether it's just guys talking experience to each other, and that kind of those stories really resonating with you, then when they might pop up in your life, it might be a warning sign because someone you trust, a friend, has actually told you about it, or they've gone through it. Your friend goes through a bad divorce, doesn't see his kids, and that really sticks for you. It sticks with you because you really feel for your friend. They're lessons you shouldn't let pass. For one, because you respect your friend and you're insulting him by being so casual about the same thing happening to you. And two, that what does it take? Does it need to happen to you to that extreme for you to actually care about yourself? Again, I know it's individual. I know not everyone's like me, and you listening to this, no one's particularly like you. I just get amazed to the degree to which guys don't care about themselves. Like, we can talk about philosophy and being stoic and being masculine and, women are like this, but just not caring about yourself. Like, if you had a kid, would you just not care about it the way you not care about you? It's just amazing to me. Like, be a bit selfish, guys. Don't be an arsehole, just be selfish. I can never unlearn my observations and experiences. Good. The hard thing, not the hard thing, but sometimes the trick is because you learn, and there's a euphoria in learning too, and you get those light bulb moments, and it enlivens you, it makes you feel alive, and you stack all this knowledge on and these experiences, and sometimes you got to be careful your ego doesn't get the best of you, that you're not bigger than who you are. Always be scientific about it. Like, you're not always right. you don't know everything, and always reevaluate what you think you know. Don't think you know everything. That's when you fall into the trap. When you think you're impenetrable to women because you're so red-pilled, that's when a lot of guys fall into the trap, and it feels that much worse because you thought you were that invincible. So sharpen yourself continually. Don't always, what was the Emperor of Rome when he had that person follow him saying, "You're just a man, you're just a man." Just remember, you're just a man. You don't know everything. Be the student as much as possible. Don't think of yourself like the master that never needs to learn anything and your life is perfect. Stoicism is great stuff. It is. It's kind of like a metaphysical father figure. Okay. Can you guys hear me properly? I just got a pop-up saying that my audio bitrate is lower than it should be. But if you guys can hear me fine, I'll just keep going. What have you read Ayn Rand's Virtue of Selfishness? Oh yeah, many times. I've got 2 copies. One for me that's got like pencil marks all through it, and one I've lent to a couple of friends. Great book. One of my favorites. And again, I'm not a Ayn Rand acolyte. I don't worship her, but that book is brilliant. Okay, let me get back to some of the questions. Can society save marriage, or is it too late? Or if it can't, is society getting worse or change? Yeah. Mate, there's too much danger in marriage for men. It's all downside. Hey, Red Pill. What male spaces remain in the world? The ones you create, pretty much. Again, care about yourself, care about finding friends, finding and creating your own spaces. If there's no spaces, make it. It's like kind of freedom. They're not going to give it to you. You have to, especially now, you've got to start taking it. You've got to create your spaces with other guys. Find friends, find guys you can have an honest conversation with. If you can't, if they're on the left, leave them alone. They can eat themselves for all I care. What kind of impact do you think porn is going to have on the generation? It's like mainlining heroin. How am I supposed to want to chase women? Exactly. There used to be a mistake. There used to be, before the online thing, that the only way I could have a real experience, the only way I could have an adventure with a woman that was hard work, even back then, but there was a little degree of fairness. I was happy to do 80% if she gave 20. Now it's like you do 99, and it's like pulling teeth to get 1% from them, and they say you should be grateful, and they hate you for it, and you always do everything wrong, and apparently you don't give 99%. You give nothing. So with porn, I think it's helping guys avoid the traps a lot easier than previously. Because if you can just type in whatever you want, and it's becoming synonymous, if your gaming world and your social world like this, we're quite fine, and we've started to sort of wade into this as a social environment, a legitimate one. Before, it used to be a really side thing where it didn't really enter your bloodstream as much. It was kind of like, it was at arm's length. It really didn't matter that much in life. It was very esoteric. Now it's very mainstream. I mean, people don't even... Online dating is the way people date. They don't meet each other. That's not the main way people meet each other anymore. they don't meet each other in the supermarket and pick each other up. Most of it, especially the mid-generation, it's all online. So our social environments, as well as porn, that's our social environment. I think it's freeing. Men are a lot freer, but psychologically, I think men are doing it a lot harder. Porn's a hard one because I know it's like velvet handcuffs. It can really ruin you. It can become an addiction where it just depletes you. You wake up, you spend a lot of your time on porn. I've heard this from so many guys. I've never been really addicted to it, but so many guys, they just, the sun goes down and then they just realize all they were doing was just online, either socializing or looking at porn, and it's rinse and repeat every single day. So I think there's some downsides to it as well, and men have to navigate it because it's a new world and it seems like it's great, but it's deteriorating for a guy. It doesn't give you much. All it does is take away from you. It's good at getting the poison out, but not much else. I should answer these questions a lot quicker. Any chance you'll be putting more of your music on your other channel? Also, any advice for someone who is trying to start writing, journaling? I am having a hard time being focused enough to do it. Yep, routine. I try with a coffee. Every time I find it hard to kickstart a day, sit down and start writing something. There's the egg glass timer method where you kind of say, no matter what, I'm going to sit down and write for 5 minutes. You say, I'll set the timer down, and after 5 minutes, I give myself permission to leave. But what happens is once you start writing, you stay writing for half an hour, whatever. But force yourself to get down to doing whatever you think you really should do that's constructive and healthy, and then give yourself permission that if you sit down for 1 or 2 minutes and you don't like it, then you can leave and not feel guilty. At least you tried. But what happens is you usually stay. It's getting to the table that's the hard thing. Music, I play with music all the time. There's music before and after this live stream. I create all the music on my channel. So it's kind of like a side pleasure, but it's not. I like music. I don't love it. I love video, photography, writing, things like that, and illustration and art. But music is just something that I really like a lot. But I'll try and put more on my music channel. Yeah, there's only 24 hours in a day. I'm behind in putting the conversation with Ptsd out, so there's only one of me, but I'll try. Yeah, try and keep the conversations shorter as well, guys, more frequent ones. That might be helpful. But any kind of questions you want to give, guys, I'm happy to try and answer them if I can. Why do purple pill guys still hope to find a Newalt? Because they're purple pilled. Cognitive dissonance, probably lack of free will. They don't have any intellectual curiosity, so that muscle of the prefrontal cortex is really weak. So if you're not mentally curious, if you're not stubborn, if you're not philosophical, it's a romantic idea that, you're going to be some strong red pill kind of guy. It's a romantic notion. It's as romantic as thinking I'm going to be a competitive bodybuilder because you really want to, but you really don't have the cojones to do it, and you're not wired that way. Better your limits and go, well, I like that I can learn from the Manosphere, but I know that I get taken advantage of, and I really can't speak up for myself. So I know my limits, and I know how to keep my distance from women or social gatherings and things like that, where I can really stay safe. Know yourself, respect your own boundaries. Respect your own, then there's more chance someone else not only will respect them, but they'll have to. It's not whether they will respect your boundaries, they have to, because you're respecting them. So you first. If you don't, like, you can't expect women to be nice. You be nice to yourself and really hard on yourself on those boundaries, and no one else. You don't need other people to be as nice, because you're being nice to yourself and being very firm on yourself, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts about casual sex? Be very, very careful, especially today. A lot more diseases around, because a lot more women on Tinder pretending to only have had a small number of partners. Women lie a lot. Women are out there having a lot more sex than they're admitting, even to themselves. So, what did Norman Mailer say? There is no such thing as safe sex. And today, doubly, triply so. Be very, very careful. And not just for sort of diseases, because of the attitude of women. You know, it's not just the laws, not just female nature, not just that they've been left off the leash and they can do no wrong and women can do anything they want. It's that they've been effectively handed heroin in society and we haven't been. Like, we're still expected to be adults and their children mainlining heroin and they're steering the ship. It's so much more dangerous than it was in my day. Be very careful. I, by default, don't feel like pursuing women. After understanding them biologically, I might find them attractive, but the rational part doesn't wants to. Is this normal? Yeah, it is normal if you're a thinking, responsible person that respects yourself. So good for you. I'm actually amazed that the good thing about a lot of the stuff in the Manosphere, I'm really amazed, and I like the fact that so many younger guys are getting exposed to this stuff and they're not having to fall for a really bad situation. And especially if they haven't had a father or guys in their life, they can trust the experience of men they see online or talk to. Those men, they can trust that when the experience happens to them, or if it starts coming their way, they go, whoa, this seems familiar. Oh yeah, Joe told me about that. He got divorced, or that guy online, or human's friend, or somebody. So, yeah, lost my train of thought. Anyway, it wasn't a question, was it? So anyway. LT, thanks for the super chat. What is your favorite book from Hemingway? Is there any? I like The Old Man and the Sea. But yeah, probably that one. I liked Farewell to Arms. I think he did that one. Yeah, I read that decades ago. I like Hemingway. He tried a bit. Sometimes he tries a bit too hard with the masculinity, but it really comes from a good place. What I like about him is a guy that's being really open and honest, and he's trying to be as honest as he can about masculinity, even revealing how much he's trying to make it so, whether it's for himself or just to sort of bring it out there. So I really respect Hemingway for what he's written. I can't say many of his stories were fantastic, but the masculinity within them I liked. And just the lessons, like say The Old Man and the Sea, they're lessons that would only resonate with men. So the stories weren't great, but the lessons within the stories were stuff that really resonated with men specifically. That's what I liked about his writing. Thanks, Cereso. Thanks for watching and supporting me. I appreciate it. Okay, let's keep this going. Tim, yeah, when people say you're still holding on to stuff from the past, when women say this, it's like, yeah, the life raft and the flak jacket that I used to survive last time. Yep, I'm never going out without a life raft. It's, let's go sailing. It's like, let me just grab my vest. You don't need that with me. Yes, I do. It's better to learn from example than experience. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to get shot by a gun to know that when I saw someone else go through it, I've got a good imagination. I can tell kind of what I might be going through if I do it. Did you ever get to talk with Sandman? No, I never got to talk with him. I think what happens in the Manosphere, I don't know why, but certain kind of guys, and I think it's got to do with the kind of content you do, you just naturally start talking to guys that do similar content. But I don't have a problem with anyone in the Manosphere. I'm happy to talk with anybody. But with some guys, I respect that they do what they do, but sometimes I don't know what I talk to them about or what our mutual audiences would appreciate us talking about. But on the occasions when I've heard Sandman talk in interviews with people where he's just shooting the breeze and he's answering questions, I really like how honest he is, and he's just kind of just being himself. I like that more than his the videos that he does. Not because I dislike them, but just kind of I don't get much from them. But it's just what I'm interested in. So, for instance, I like Quasimandias' stuff. I like Stardust's and Spetsnaz's stuff. And a lot of people might not kind of like it. They might think it's interesting, but I actually think that that's where all the juice lies for me in terms of interest, and where I would steamroll in a conversation and I would provide a lot. But if someone else is producing content that's in a different direction, would the conversation be like, I'll be listening to them, but I wouldn't be able to contribute in terms of what they're talking about, and vice versa with me. So I don't know, but I don't have a problem with Sandman for what he does. I think a lot of guys need, especially like coming into the Manosphere, being exposed to like the really basic truths. He repeats a lot of good stuff, and a lot of that stuff, especially when you've sort of just been woken up, you need it exercised through you, the very basic stuff that people like me, I just kind of know it, and I talk about other stuff, but it's already so foundational that it's kind of like I've got a good footing on it. I don't need to directly talk about it. So anyway, stop rambling, human. I think someone asked me this before. Has myself and Coach Greg Adams ever done a collab? No. But doesn't he kind of do a lot of relationship advice though? Again, I don't have a problem with any of these guys, and some of these guys I catch these videos in passing. They recommend them to me on my feed, and I watch them, and they'll say some really good stuff to help guys. And so I can appreciate whether it's Sandman or Coach Greg Adams and things like that, where they're saying some really good stuff that I can see the guy that would really benefit from what they're saying. But what his audience, what are they going to get from me? That's always what I think. Like, how good is the tennis match going to be in terms of the conversation for our respective and mutual audiences? But for the guys interested in relationship stuff, from what I've seen of Coach Greg Adams, yeah, he He's a switched on guy. Just heard about Will Smith and his loving wife, yeah. Jade is looking very handsome these days. Have you ever felt like you're becoming dumber by the day? Me? The older I get, the less I feel I know. But I don't feel like I'm becoming dumber. Maybe I notice slower, say my mental faculties. I'm calmer than I was in the past, but I'm not as quick mentally as I used to be, and that really irritates me, which is why I try and have more stimulating conversations and not stupid ones, especially in my day-to-day life. As much as I can, I search out more intelligent conversation if I can, just for the fact of being able to exercise some verbal acuity. How do we ask questions? Just type a question, but before and after the question, put some emojis or a lot of symbols just so I can visually see it. Otherwise, just you guys are happy to talk amongst yourselves. I don't mind. We've been going for an hour already. You mentioned being a little bit selfish to be happy before, but that just isn't how I am. Why? Do you have any philosophical insights that might help kickstart that self-interest? Someone mentioned Ayn Rand's book, The Virtue of Selfishness. Read that. That's a very kind of stoic, common sense approach. Why it's a healthy perspective. And if selfishness is, because sometimes the words we're not comfortable with, replace it with something else that makes equal sense. So if you don't like selfishness, replace it with self-respect. That always works for me when I wasn't quite comfortable, because I know I'm a fairly relaxed guy. I'm not an arsehole. I am a nice guy, which is why this stuff resonated with me, because I was tired of getting walked all over. I grew up being treated very well by my mother and sister, a very traditional house, and there was a very strict demarcation between men and women and how they'd cooperatively treat each other. Go out into the world and everyone treats you completely differently. And I came out of the oven baked as a nice guy. And like, I can't be selfish. I can't pretend to be an arsehole. It's not about being an arsehole. It's respecting yourself. Or I started to even do sort of mental exercises like, well, if I don't respect me, let me pretend that my father or mother, who I love and respect, they're watching me go through this. They're watching my girlfriend walk all over me. Then all of a sudden I started to get really angry, and I defend myself from the perspective of my mother and father. That's when I'd get really upset at my girlfriend. And it made me think, like, why all of a sudden it only clicked into place to have self-respect and a bit of selfishness to myself when I only looked at it from the point of view of people I loved. Why couldn't I look at myself like that? So, you kind of over time, but it's not something like a light switch, but you need to start resonating. Like, if some of the truths speak to you in the Manosphere, you need to start to glean them and lock them into your psyche through phrases and perspectives that will help you. If you're a nice person and you don't feel comfortable with being selfish, find another word that means the same thing in terms of the truths that will be rationally helpful and are right and fair. So, okay, you don't like selfishness? Look at self-respect, look at self-esteem, look at fairness. Replace it with whatever you want. But to me, selfishness is correlates with all those things and can be synonymous. It's also how you train yourself as well, how you talk to yourself. Do you like being a doormat? I hated it. But really, for me, it was very revealing that I only stood up for myself when I started to look at it from the point of view of people who loved me, like my parents. I could see how painfully they felt when I was picking bad girlfriends or letting women walk all over me. They just felt so sorry for me. And I felt awful that I was doing it to them. And then when I started looking at it from their point of view and the pain I was causing them, then I got really angry at the girlfriend. But really, I was getting angry at me because I couldn't stand up for myself. So how do you deal with the virtue signaling in your own family, especially from an older brother? Greetings from Germany. Well, I'm the eldest in my family. But yeah, the more you develop your own philosophy and you get comfortable with, whether it's selfishness or self-respect, and you have very hard boundaries that you don't even let your family cross. Learn to be hard there. Then, like some female, it's no problem. But yeah, the family's the hard one. If you can exercise and sharpen yourself and your boundaries in relation to your family, some female stranger should be easy. But yeah, family's a hard one. One good way was that I started voicing my opinion in family situations. And I noticed usually you have a fear of saying, like, I don't want to say anything because they're going to either shout me down or shame me, or I better just stay quiet. I don't need the aggravation. But when you stay quiet, you just continue being mute, not speaking, not learning how to voice the truths that so a lot of this stuff, like it's almost claustrophobic. You want to breathe. So being able to express these things, and the safest place really should be your family. So when you're in familial situations like barbecues and family dinners, when they start talking about subjects that you really want to open your mouth up about, do it, because that is where you can be most courageous and most honest, because your family's not going anywhere really. If you're talking about politics and women, that's where you should be the bravest. And you can start exercising that and developing a lexicon around voicing those opinions, then you'll be able to more comfortably do it with strangers out in the world. Music is my biggest hobby. Good for you, man. Anything creative, people who do creative stuff, like I do a lot of creative stuff. I believe, especially for men, especially because we're human doings, like it or not, we are. So you might as well be a doing for yourself. Especially for men, people talk about like find your purpose and all that, which I think is a lot of horse shit, right? But they also tell you to find something to do. We are human doings, so the best you can do is do something for yourself. If you can find something creative to do, to me, that's a bonus. Because I think, especially for guys, that the reason you're here is to create, as human beings, to create. Most people just do the autopilot, create other human beings. Yeah, have children and maintain that creativity. You raise them, you try and create human beings because you didn't create yourself before you had kids. But if I was very selfish with my creativity, which was another reason why it was kind of easier in my stubborn nature to not cross the line of getting married or having children, because I knew that life I could kiss my creativity goodbye. No more illustration, painting, photography, music, freedom. Basically, I would have no more freedom to play as I wished with my creative pursuits. And my creative pursuits are the things I get up for. This stuff is a lot of hard work. All the skills I'm constantly developing and sharpening, it's a lot of work, but it's really fulfilling. And that's because we're human doings. So if you're a creative person, you're already one step ahead from a lot of guys who aren't intellectually curious. The typical guy who goes, they want to start a business, or they just don't want to work anymore. They want to be an entrepreneur. It's kind of just, you want freedom, but you don't know what to do with it. So if you're creative, that's a bonus. So any creative person, I say you're a long way ahead of going your own way, and don't let anyone take it away from you. If you don't use porn and you don't have sex with women, how do you control the sexual urges and the feelings of being constantly horny? I'm not saying you don't have to use porn. Stay as safe as you can. If you find yourself living a state of anxiety all day and you need to really release, the safest way is porn, or get a doll, or whatever you feel like you need or is most attractive to you. And you know your limits. Like I can't stand up for myself like my friend does with women, or I can't talk as well. I just know that a woman, if I let her in, that's it, it's over. She's going to walk all over me. If you know yourself, then yeah, have those boundaries, and I don't know, use porn, use video games, use whatever you can to have an enjoyable life and have an outlet. But I'm not saying you shouldn't. You know, if it's a choice between a stripper and porn, man, use porn. How do we best help support young men from joining and supporting cults of all type? Politics, religion, social normies. By not, yeah, because there's a lot of there's a lot of the Manosphere as well. They want to form groups and cults, and the moment I've noticed with me, like I've gone my way in my own way in my specific way. Like I show my face. I felt like trying live streams out. I throw in music. I do my videos in whatever way interests me. I don't really care what the group or, you know, the 5 rules of Fight Club say. I like the reason why the Manosphere, the campfire of the Manosphere is attractive to me is because it's a campfire and I can talk to guys that are more individual. The part of the Manosphere that attracted me was the individual freedom aspect, not the let's form a safe group aspect. I don't want to be part of any group, but I will stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you guys. But I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to follow a group. I don't want to wear anyone's t-shirt. So yeah, I'm more of an individualist that wants to talk to other individuals. That's what going your own way meant and does always mean to me. So it's kind of having conversations and having a live and let live attitude, not getting into arguments, not debates. And I notice with myself, the more I can have a conversation with someone where it doesn't feel like I'm having a debate or arguing, the more healthier that relationship is. I mean, you think back to your ex-girlfriends. When there's a conversation going on, even if she's different, it can be okay. It can be fine. I mean, it's better if you're both simpatico and on the same page. But if you're always fighting, you say black, she says white. I don't want to debate. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to tug of war. So I think the best thing you can do is be honest when you speak and don't feel like you're telling a guy what to do. Have a conversation where the guy can feel like he's being helped and he enjoys talking to you and he can help himself. And you're always letting him do what he wants, giving him things to think about, but not giving him like, you know, here are the 10 rules for life. And, you know, there's parts of the Manosphere that are almost religious. Tell guys to think twice about sort of staying away from those sort of things in the Manosphere. Just realised lately in my old age that when having sex with a woman, is it the man who mostly does the fucking and woman is the one who is making and marking and nagging? Am I yeah. Like, guys do most of the work across the board anyway, from asking them out to the act of sex to everything. On aggregate, men do a lot of work, including sex. But again, men are human doings. We like going out to the gym. We like working on something. We like the rewards of sport and action. What are your standards for females, human? Now the same standards I have for men. Stardust raised a poignant point in a video when he mentioned men and women don't seem to have evolved to live and work alongside one another as they do today in the West. Your thoughts? Yep. It used to be more cooperative, especially socially. Women hate shame. They don't really have much guilt, or if any at all, but they do have shame. And socially, they would shame each other. Society would shame them away from the bad traits that they're allowed to just sort of act out now. So we all, men had their boundaries, women had their boundaries, we had our roles, they had our role, and they were kind of, we used to cooperate a lot more. Now we've sort of diverged so much that we're barely the same species. There's very little in common. Like, I knew for a long time, and even in my 40s now, that if I want intellect, I have my friends, I have my passions, my hobbies. I have stopped looking for that in put it this way, no woman is your Swiss Army knife. You can't get it all in a woman. Yeah, there's the unicorns they wheel out. They tell you my wife's perfect, my wife's my best friend, my wife's this, my wife's that. Yeah, show me a man where his wife is his best friend. I'll show you a man without any friends. Yeah, I don't think men and women they've got precious little in common, aside from if you can get a woman who is just nice, a decent human being, just a nice personality. That's almost all you can hope for. You might have other particular things pertinent to her in an individual. She might be good in bed. She might have similar hobbies to you and pastimes, or understand you. You know, if you like writing like I do, and she loves reading, that's a nice compatibility. But yeah, men and women, we have so little in common. We didn't have as much in common. I think back in the day, there were rules socially and even familially, the way you'd raise a family. There was kind of one general way to do it. So the way we'd cooperate, though we were always and have always been different, the way we would have to cooperate with each other would, I think, made us get along and made out as though we got along better back in the day. But it was only because we had to socially abide by rules and respected abiding by those rules. Today, I think what today it shows is the degree to which we're completely different. I think back in the day, if you had a guy or a girl that was raised really, really well and disciplined really, really well in a healthy way, they would seem like they got along as men and women, like naturally got along. But I think it had a lot to do with upbringing and the social norms. Today you got shit upbringing, no social norms. As I mentioned, women can do anything and they hate men, but somehow they're attracted to us. And so they're going through their own hell, and men love women, but they're too dangerous and they scare the shit out of men legitimately, structurally, in terms of like how much of your life can be ruined. So I don't think men and women have very little. The biggest thing we've got in common is our parts fit together well, and the desire to sort of physically mesh and create other offspring, other other human beings. As a young man who's always strived to be honest, doesn't like hookups. Yeah, I hate hookups. It's just a waste of time. Like, you spend so much energy in the hookup culture. Like, a lot of guys who think, oh, it's great, I can hook up with as many women as possible. They get addicted to that, and you'll find decades go by where all you do is just pump and dump and hook up with various women. And you've just had quantity and no quality because you've just been chasing the next high. As a young man who's always strived to be honest, doesn't like hookups, is it possible to get intimate with a woman without giving her all of the emotional power? Yeah, if you, again, really forge a self-respecting personality in you. You don't let friends, bosses, women, family members, you don't get walked all over. It's the best thing you can do. You can't control the world. You can try and control yourself as much as possible. Build a human being that you're proud of when you look in the mirror. Have you ever thought that years after your death, you will still be guiding and helping men to think for themselves? In terms of, like, if these videos are still around? I don't know. I've never been, again, maybe it's got to do with me never being reproductively motivated or wanting children, but I've never kind of had an immortality project or a mindset where I wanted to leave something behind. I know I've kind of felt, I've seen that thinking a bit vain and grandiose. You know, I'm going to leave. I like the idea of contributing while you're here, but the idea of, like, leaving monuments that people talk about afterwards, it's a bit megalomaniacal, very egotistical to me. But that's my perspective. What is driving these self-proclaimed male feminists? Honest opinion. Oh, they want to get laid. They think if they're super nice and say they're feminists, that maybe that, you know, they've got a good chance of betting these women. My thought is, why would you want to? You're the weakest man trying to bed the most ferocious woman. Women are my kryptonite. See you, human. Okay. Too many purple pillars here. Really? Not reproductively motivated is not living. Okay. I'm enjoying my life. "100 years from now, on when we are gone, can you please speak a little about what you think the future of the West will be?" I have no idea, man. It's so unpredictable. The West has changed, especially with technology, so fast and in ways we couldn't predict in the last 5 years. So let alone what I think it's going to be like in 5, 10, 20. Technology, that's probably easier to predict, but the way we're going to be as people, as society, human beings, how we relate, no idea. No idea at all. It's a bit worrying, actually. I think it's just going to, we won't be able to plan it as much as our grandfathers did when the world was simpler. Technology is leading us now. And the not so nice people who are in charge of technology can manipulate and lead us a lot more. So anyway, do you consider the question, what do I really want out of or from life, to be the pertinent question for a man forging his own path in the world? Discuss. Yeah, and who you are, not just what you want, because you can also fall for the trap again, because men find the answer in doing something. Like, if I've got a target, I'll aim for that. But if you don't feel good about yourself, just aiming for a target without any self-respect or boundaries, you can still get taken advantage of along the way. I know for me, I haven't been as much target focused. I've always been immediate focused, like here and now, and then tomorrow, but not 5 years from now or a year from now. I'm sensibly focused in the present and in the immediate future, as in tomorrow and this week, and sensibly and maturely planning my life so it keeps getting better and I keep building responsibly on that, but not in a way that I'm blind to my life now and I'm completely just myopic and focused on the future. I think a lot of guys can get blindsided because they've got their eye on the prize and they miss a lot along the way. But certainly find what you want to do, but more importantly, why you want to do it is the question. Because some stuff can just be romantic wants, just like women. But if you find out why you want it, who you really are, are you a guy that really wants a Ferrari? Or do you just want a Ferrari so people notice you and you got friends and women will love you and so forth? Know yourself more, and then you'll know what you want a lot better, I think. Any more questions? All right, an hour and a half. That's enough. We'll do it again soon, guys. Thanks for dropping in. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. I'll talk to you later. Bye.